everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Emily and I like to make content all about sewing, slow fashion, and sustainability. In today's video, I'm going to be making like a little bit of a mini travel capsule wardrobe. So I have a trip coming up in the next couple of weeks. My partner and I are going over to Vancouver Island for about 5 days, and I'm super excited because this is the first trip that I've been on in what feels like forever. It's been so long since I've been on vacation, so I'm really looking forward to it. And I just wanted to make a couple things to wear and feel cute in while I'm on vacation. So I'm gonna try and make, I think, 4 pieces, possibly 5 if I have enough time. And I usually don't sew like this. Normally I like to take my time with my projects and not kind of rush through them like this, but I haven't really left myself that much time, and I do have a few things that I really want to make and bring with me. So I thought it would be fun to make a video and show you the process of making everything and how they turn out. So first I'll show you the fabric that I have and the projects that I have planned for them, and then we'll just jump right into it. So the first one is this knit fabric. This is cotton jersey knit in the color Blue Stone from Blackbird Fabrics. And I have this planned for a Samar camisole from Paradise Patterns. I think that's how you say it, Samar. I've made a couple of those tank tops or camisoles recently and I absolutely love them. They're the perfect like just throw on and go kind of top. So I bought this color to make because I thought that this would be really cute and go with a lot of other things in my wardrobe. Next I have this striped knit fabric. This is organic striped baby rib jersey from Core Fabrics. And it's kind of in this like off-white or cream color with like a golden or yellow stripe. And this I thought would be really cute to make a little loungewear set out of. So I'm planning to make the Lara loungewear set from Swim Style Patterns. I've made that set a couple times before, and I actually used the t-shirt pattern from that to make a lot of t-shirts in my wardrobe. I've made that one like probably 4 or 5 times. It's just a really good basic. So yeah, I thought that this would be really nice to make a little set out of, a matching t-shirt and shorts, and it's something that I could wear when we're kind of lounging around the place that we're staying, or also just when we're going out and about and kind of exploring. So next I have this beautiful linen. Of course I'm including something linen. It's my favorite fabric to sew with and also my favorite fabric to probably wear like throughout the year, but especially in the warmer months in spring and summer. And this is Core Collection linen, again from Core Fabrics, and it's in the color lilac. And I actually only got 1 yard of this because I'm planning on making this into the zero waist cropped blouse by Brigitta Helmerson. So it doesn't require very much fabric, and I'm going to be able to get an entire top out of just 1 yard of fabric. Last but not least, I have this sand washed Cupro, which kind of feels like a very like drapey, silky fabric, I would say. And this is also from Core Fabrics, and it's in the color chocolate, so it's like a very dark brown color. And for this one I'm planning the Leah Bias dress by Soften Studio. I just really love like the simple lines of that pattern, and I was really looking for like a slip dress pattern anyway, but I just really loved the shape and the lines of this one, and that it has the wider straps as opposed to like the thin spaghetti straps that you see on a lot of other slip dress patterns. So yeah, I'm really excited for this one. So those are the 4 projects that I really want to get done before my trip, but if I do have a little bit of extra time, I have one more that I might try and squeeze in, and that is a swimsuit. So this is some recycled poly ribbed swim tricot in Viridian Green. This is from Blackbird Fabrics. I just got half a meter in this because I was planning on just making a bikini, so that was the least amount of fabric that I could order, and I'll definitely be able to get at least 1 bikini out of this with a top and bottom, possibly more pieces, so I could do like mix and match. And we'll see if I get to this one. I might run out of time. Swimwear for me is always kind of an ordeal if I'm being honest. Something always goes wrong, and I just really don't have a good handle on sewing swimwear yet. I have made a few swimsuits in the past, but I wouldn't say that they've all been like super successful. There have been like some fit issues, and just yeah, they've just been really difficult for me to sew without making mistakes. But I'm gonna keep trying, I'm gonna persevere, because I just love the idea of making my own swimwear, and there are some like really fun and cute patterns out there, and also some really lovely fabrics. So I'm not going to be super disappointed if I don't get to this one before my trip, because I can just make it after and then wear it for the rest of summer. But if I can get to it before we leave, then I will try and make it and then bring it along. So those are all of the projects that I have planned, and yeah, I don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. So I'm starting with the Lara loungewear set because, like I said, I've made this one before and I know that it's a really quick sew. So I thought it would be an easy one to get out of the way first. Also, my serger was already set up with the proper color thread, which always factors heavily into the decision. All of my fabric had been pre-washed before starting this video, so I was ready to go ahead and start cutting. The cutting for this one was a bit tricky because of the stripes, and I really wanted to try and match them as best I could. So I made sure that all of the stripes were lined up when the fabric was folded over, and also that they were aligned on the side seams when I was pinning down the pattern pieces. And I will be linking all of the patterns and fabrics that I'm using in this video in the description box below, so if you're looking to make something similar, then definitely check there for some more info. When sewing knitwear, I typically do most of the work on my serger and then just do the top stitching using my sewing machine. You can definitely sew knits without a serger, but having one just makes it so much easier in my opinion, and you also get a really nice professional finish on the inside. I really like the way that the elastic is done for the shorts in this pattern. The waistband is built into the pattern pieces, so all you need to do is measure out a length of elastic that fits your waist comfortably, and then sew it closed in a circle, and then space it evenly along the top of the shorts and stitch it on. Then the elastic is just flipped to the inside and top stitched, so it's really easy and you don't have to worry about making a casing or threading elastic through or anything like that. I also took the time to add some cute labels for both the tee and the shorts. Labels are definitely not something I put on all of my makes, but I just love that little added fun touch that they give them. To finish everything off, I top stitched the elastic and all of the hems using a twin needle on my sewing machine. I really prefer this to a zigzag stitch because it just looks a lot nicer. The only downside is that you need 2 spools of thread for the upper thread, but if you don't have 2, then an easy hack is just to wind a bobbin and use that as one of your spools and it'll work just the same. When I'm top stitching, I try to make sure that I'm not stretching the fabric at all, because if you do that, then you might end up with a wavy hem. So I'm just kind of gently holding it in place, but I'm really letting my sewing machine do the work of pulling the fabric through to get the most even result. One habit that I always do is when I'm finished sewing, I clip the threads from the right side first, and then sort of tug the thread coming out of the wrong side, and that way it pulls the ends towards the wrong side so that if they do end up coming loose, then they'll be on the inside and not visible on the outside. And with one final press, my first project is done. So here's what it looks like, and I'll also be doing some try-ons at the end of the video, so if you want to see what it looks like on, then you can watch until the end, or use the timestamps to skip ahead. I was really proud of myself for how well the stripes lined up on the seams for this one, and I also really love how well the labels match the fabric as well. Next, I'm moving on to the somber camisole, and I started using my rotary cutter to cut this one out. I just got new blades for it, but unfortunately it didn't seem to be working very well, so I eventually switched over to my usual pins and scissors. And I don't use my rotary cutter that often, so I guess I'm just more comfortable with pins and scissors, and I don't even have proper pattern weights, so as you can see here, I'm just using whatever I have within reach. And I know I said before that it was easier to start with the loungewear set because my serger was already threaded, but if I'm being honest, my serger isn't hard to thread at all. The 2 needle threads are threaded just like a regular sewing machine, and then the looper threads have an automatic threader that uses air to push the threads through. So it really only takes me a couple of minutes to get this threaded, and I was just being dramatic. I've seen a lot of people making this pattern and wearing it on Instagram, and after I made my first one, I definitely got the hype. It comes together so well and the fit is really good. And if you're interested, there's a full video tutorial on how to sew this one from the pattern designer, so if you want detailed instructions, then I would definitely recommend watching that. Although the pattern does come with fully illustrated written instructions as well. As for the sizing with this one, it really depends on what kind of fabric you're using. I made my first one in a ribbed knit fabric, and those tend to have more stretch, so I made the size E for that one. For this one, because it's a flat knit and not ribbed, I sized up to a size F, and also used the large bralette length this time around. My bust measurement put me between a size E and F, so I would say if you're using a regular knit like this, then go for your true size or the larger size if you fall between sizes. And then if you're using a ribbed knit, then size down 1 or maybe even 2 sizes depending on how much stretch your fabric has. So I'm just finishing up again by using a twin needle on my sewing machine to top stitch everything, and after that this one is all done. It really comes together so quickly and has such a good result, so I definitely recommend this pattern if you're looking for a good one for summer. Here I'm just doing a final press, and then here is how it looks when it's all finished. So that is 2 projects down and just a few more to go. So now I'm moving on to the zero waist cropped blouse, and I've made some other zero waist patterns before, although this is my first time doing this one. I'm someone who really hates fabric waste, and I always hold on to my scraps in case I can use them for something else in the future, so in that respect I really love zero waist patterns. I think the main downsides are that the fit is sometimes not as precise as a traditionally drafted pattern, and also because there are no pattern pieces, you have to rely on measurements and straight lines to do all of the cutting. I like to use tailor's chalk to make markings so that it's easier for me to follow the lines, and I also like to place pins along the lines to keep my fabric from shifting around on me as I'm cutting it out. This pattern has a few different options or hacks. The base view is a shorter sleeve blouse, but you can also hack it with a longer gathered sleeve. I originally wanted to do longer sleeves but leave them loose and sort of billowy instead of gathering them, so I used the gathered sleeve hack for my cutting layout. I didn't follow the sewing instructions for this one exactly, but only made a few small changes here and there. I started by using my serger to finish all of the raw edges, which gave me an excuse to use my pink serger thread, which I pretty much never use. And then I sewed all of the seams using my sewing machine and pressed the seams open. One of the pieces you cut out for the neck is used as a back facing, and I think it's used more just to make the pattern truly zero waist and not necessarily for functionality, so it's definitely not a requirement to add it, but I do like to include it just because it's a good spot to attach my label. Once my garment was mostly assembled, I tried it on and realized that what I had originally planned for the sleeves wasn't really going to work. They were sort of just hanging at an awkward angle and looked way too wide, so in the end I did end up gathering them. For the buttons, I was deciding between 2 options, both of which I got from the thrift store, and I ended up going with the purple ones, and I actually decided to sew these on backwards because the color on the back was a little bit nicer. I think the front of the button had maybe faded a little bit or something in the sunlight. And instead of sewing these on by hand, I finally learned how to use my sewing machine to attach them. This machine actually even came with the proper presser foot to use, and then I just lowered my feed dogs and set the machine to about a 4mm zigzag, and it worked really well. I was so surprised. It was a lot faster than sewing them on by hand, so I'm definitely going to be doing this in the future as well. Finally, I used some fray glue to stop the button threads from coming loose, and then this one was done. So here's what the final result looks like. And because I made some small edits to the pattern and didn't use all of the pieces, I did have a little bit of fabric left over, but it's just this really small handful, so it felt really satisfying to use up pretty much all of my fabric. Okay, we're getting there. I can see light at the end of the tunnel. At this point, I was definitely getting a little bit tired as I'd been sewing straight for a couple of days, but I really just wanted to make it to the end. So here I'm cutting out my bias dress. I'm making the maxi length, and I had to cut it out on the floor in order to have enough room for the pieces, as they were definitely too big for my cutting table. And I had only 2.5 yards of this fabric, while my size called for 2.6 yards. So I was really careful here and tried a few layouts just to make sure I'd be able to fit everything before starting to cut. I have to say the cutting was definitely the hardest part of this project. The fabric was very shifty, especially because it was cut on the bias, so it was moving around a lot. But once I had all of the pieces, the sewing instructions were actually really simple and straightforward, which was nice. Because the neckline and armholes are cut on the bias, to keep them from stretching out, the pattern recommends that you use some tearaway Velen or Vilene. But I didn't have that, so instead I just did a single row of stay stitching using a very short stitch length, and that ended up working really well, and I feel like those areas held their shape no problem. I've learned that the best way to do bust darts is to stitch them regularly until you get close to the end, and then reduce your stitch length and sort of taper off your stitching in a curve to reduce any pointiness, and then instead of back stitching, you take the ends of the thread and tie 3 knots to secure it. After that, I'm just using my serger to finish all of the raw edges before stitching the seams with my sewing machine. The neckline and armholes are finished with bias binding, and I actually found the binding pieces were a little bit too narrow, so next time I'd cut them wider just for my own personal preference. After that, the dress was mostly finished, but before hemming, I followed the instructions to hang the dress overnight and let gravity sort of work on it so that I could come back the next day and make sure that the hem was the correct length and fully even. So the next morning I tried it on and found that the hem looked pretty good, so I didn't make any adjustments and just went ahead and pressed it up and stitched it to finish it off. Okay, and before we get to the try-ons, we are finally at the last project. So as it turns out, I did end up having enough time for the swimsuit. And for this one, I'm using the bikini top pattern from the Megan Nielsen Cottesloe pattern. I've used this before to make underwear actually, and here I'm just altering the pattern slightly to have a lower neckline in the front. For the bottoms, I'm using the Edgewater Avenue Roxy pattern with the cheeky view. This one is meant to be reversible, but I'm just going to be making it from a single layer, so I also drafted and cut out a gusset. So I'm starting by using my serger to sew all of the seams, and then I'm also using it to attach my swim elastic around all of the edges. I used 2 sizes of elastic, 1/4 inch for the neckline, armholes, and leg openings, and then for the underbust and waistband I used a slightly thicker one at 1/2 inch, just for a little bit more support. And I like to stretch the elastic gently while serging, as I find this just helps the garment hold its shape, and it also fits better when worn. Once all of the elastic was attached, I used the twin needle again on my sewing machine to flip the elastics to the inside and top stitch. So here is the finished result, and I think this is probably my best swimwear make to date, so all of the practice is paying off. This one actually came together without too much trouble. I think it's definitely easier making swimwear in a single layer instead of the fully reversible kind. Next time I might size down in the bottoms as they're a little bit baggy in the bum area, but they're still totally wearable. And now it's finally time for try-ons. So first we have the Lara Loungewear set. This one is so soft and comfortable, and I love how it can be worn as a matching set, but each piece can also be worn individually as well. Here is the Summer Camisole on. I love the color of this one, and I think this fabric is a really good fit for this pattern, and it also looks super cute with the shorts from the Loungewear set too. Here is the zero waist cropped blouse. Even though it's not exactly how I envisioned it with the sleeves, I still love the result of this one, and the color is so bright and cheerful for summer. Finally, here is the Leah bias dress, and for me, this one definitely steals the show. The shape and fit of this dress is just so beautiful, and I absolutely love the color and drape of the material. If you want to see how I style all of these on our trip, then definitely follow me over on Instagram as I'll be posting my outfits over there. And that is it for this video. So I hope you enjoyed watching. If you did, please don't forget to give this video a like and also subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see more like this in the future. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.